All right, Juan, we are recording, so I'm really excited to talk to you and ask you some questions. You know, when I think back to when I first met you and kind of how far you've grown, as an individual, professionally, and just as a person, it's kind of a cool thing to see, So when you and I kind of loosely kept touch over the years, and every once in a while you'd reach out and tell me what's going on, and thought that was pretty awesome. I know you got a family now and a good career, and just kind of interested to catch up and see how you're doing.
Yeah,
Um,
sure thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, kind of introducing yourself. Who are you? When did you graduate from Ranken, and where are you working?
Yeah, so my name is Juan Peterson. I graduated from Rankin in about 2017 at the beginning of the year, so well, in springtime. Uh, I was a student of Evans. Um, I have been working at Build-A-Bear pretty much ever since then. I started working at Build-A-Bear a few months after I graduated, so like I didn't start right after I graduated, but I got to Build-A-Bear at about September of 2017. I've been there since then, just kind of working my way up the totem pole. Started off kind of working help desk, and then ended up moving over to an administrative level role. Spent some time there, and now I'm a developer. Pretty much what I've kind of been aiming towards. Um, as of right now, I'm kind of the go-to guy for like our interactive stuff. So if you go to a Build-A-Bear store, you walk in, the first thing you might see is like a digital sign in the front of the building. I'm in charge of kind of updating the content for that, as well as our other interactive stations, like our Hear Me stations, which is a station you can go and put sounds for your bears, and also our Name Me station, which is a station you can print a birth certificate out. It's all pretty over the top, of course, for bears, but trust me, a lot of people really like that stuff and are appreciative for the content that we put on there. So I'm not complaining from that standpoint. Very loosely, our department just took on our point of sale system. That was originally something that was managed by the team that I was previously on. However, we've kind of revamped our entire point of sale system all across the board for all of our stores. So we heavily support and give updates for that as well and develop for that. I haven't necessarily put my foot in that as much as I have with the interactive stuff as of yet, because that's kind of still like in our pilot stages. But when it's all said and done, I'm pretty sure they'll be nudging me to develop some stuff for that as well.
So a lot of things come to mind. A lot of questions come to mind. So I'll start with you went to school to learn development, and your first job wasn't a development job,
No, yeah, definitely not ideal, but yeah,
but that didn't seem to matter to you. You wanted a development job, and you kept that in your essentially your goals. Like, this is what you wanted. It didn't necessarily, your first job wasn't exactly what you wanted, but you landed an IT job and worked your way into it.
for sure.
Persistence, right?
Yep.
That's admirable, right? That's
Yeah.
might not be the path that you would have chose for yourself, but here you are, 2023, and working for a good company and doing what you want to do,
Yep.
even
Exactly.
though
Yeah.
even though it wasn't exactly the path in your mind. So congratulations for that. I mean, I don't know what else to say. That just shows, perseverance and character, and congrats. That's cool.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, what languages do you use at Build-A-Bear?
So at Build-A-Bear, we're pretty much a Microsoft company. Like we're most of our, well, I'm not even gonna say most of, pretty much the majority, like 95% of everything we pretty much develop there is Microsoft based, specifically like C Sharp and ASP.NET.
Yep.
So of course, there's a bunch of JavaScript in there as well. Most of our solutions have a bunch of JavaScript built into them. Um, a lot of JSON. so on and so forth. But like I said, it's just mainly JavaScript. But that doesn't mean like nobody is open to other tools. Like if you figure something out and you want to use like a different language, our developers, they're all pretty open to, hey, if it makes it easier, if it makes it more efficient, then, so be it, bring it to the table. So with that being said, there's some guys who it's not necessarily a programming language. People mainly call it like a scripting language. However you want to differentiate the two, but there's some tools that are built in PowerShell. Some guys even dibble and dabble around with Python.
Yep.
So, but like I said, mainly C#.
Well, that's cool because it's been a while since you've been here, but our curriculum is geared around all of that.
Yep.
So that's kind of cool to hear. We teach two technology stacks: the JavaScript technology stack and the Microsoft technology stack. So that's kind of cool to hear. Going back, I actually, I haven't been in a Build-A-Bear store for a long time, but I have seen them around, certainly at the malls and like at Busch Stadium, for example, right? So you got at Busch Stadium, you can build a bear at Busch Stadium, and you mentioned your point of sale. So like you walk up at Busch Stadium, I'm imagining they have a tablet of some sorts with software running on it. And so my question to you is, have you worked on that software that would be used at either a Busch Stadium or at a storefront? You mentioned the interactive software when you first walk in.
For sure. So as of recently, like I said, my supervisor, he's been a developer at Build-A-Bear for like 15 years or so. He's had a similar path to me. Like he started off on the service desk, moved up the chain. Now he's like the director of development. So it's pretty inspiring from that standpoint for sure. But he's been just having me in charge of all the deployment for all of the content-based updates for our interactive. So if you go into a Build-A-Bear store and you see like the images, like the button images and so on and so forth for like our different sounds and our different products and stuff, 9 times out of 10, I'm probably the one that was in charge of sending that out. As far as the point of sale system, like I said, it's still like in a pilot stage, and we have like we have consultants who kind of helped implement the software for us. So we didn't necessarily like hard code or like, develop that in-house. However, once everything is pretty much deployed to all of our stores, they're going to give us, all of the repositories. Well, we already have access to the repositories, but they're going to give us all that code that they use to develop it, and we're going to basically build off of that for years to come.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
So next question is why'd you choose this industry, or did it choose you? How'd you wind up choosing this industry?
So this question, it can be answered in a lot of ways, but I'll answer it like in the fun way. I won't answer it like in like the business, I want to make money. I'm going to answer it like in a way that could kind of, I guess somebody can relate to. So I was like a junior in high school. This was like months before the whole Ferguson riot situation happened. I was at my grandmother's house. I was like, it's crunch time. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to go to school for or anything. But I'm already like, months, like 9 months away from graduating high school. And so I'm having a conversation with my aunt. She has a friend in the house. My aunt is like one of the only people who's really had like a 4-year college education in my family. So I always like, I'm, wrecking her brain like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? So we're having a conversation. She's like, yeah, you should go to school for engineering. You should go to school for like electrician or something like that. And I'm like, And her friend like butts in. He's like, no, you should do like IT. And I'm like, what is IT? And she's like, it's like, computer stuff, like networking, this and that and this. And I'm like, I guess, I guess I already kind of like fool around with computers and stuff as it is. So I didn't think too much of it at the time. So like fast forward like 4 months later, I'm a senior now in high school, and some pamphlet comes around like to our classes. Like I don't know like why they chose me or like what the deal was, but it came from our counselor's office, and it was a pamphlet for Ranken. It was like, hey, would you be interested in like any of these career paths or anything like that? And IT was on there. So I'm like, oh, maybe it's a sign, my aunt's friend just like told me about this, so I like checked it, and then a few months later, that was the dual enrollment program. I'm not sure if you remember that. And then I would say the rest is history. I mean, you and me, we worked on some of that HTML stuff, and I thought that was pretty cool. Out of all of the stuff that we did in the dual enrollment, that was kind of like the only thing that like really like sparked my interest. So I'm like, oh, I guess I'll try this programming thing out, this coding thing out. Like I said, the rest is history.
So family kind of got you to check out Ranken, and then you enrolled in dual enrollment. Tell me a little bit more about that. So dual enrollment, you're in high school and you're going to Ranken, earning college credit at the same time. So when did you graduate
exactly.
from Ranken? How old were you?
So I was I like 19 or 8? I want to say I was like 19. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
like 19.
yeah. You
Yeah.
probably started a year early or a semester early, and got
hmm
out at 19. And you know, you mentioned not landing a job like in the first month, right? So how hard was the job hunt? I mean, did you have to hunt real hard, or did you not apply yourself, or what happened there?
So with that, I like had a job. Um, as everybody was always saying, IT, like those tech support type of jobs, or like those like Genius Bar or Geek Squad type of jobs. They're like the fast food of IT. So I had like a fast food of IT job. I worked at this tech support call center while I was at Rankin. I got that job from one of our job fairs that we would have at Rankin.
Yeah.
So I like thought I had like a IT job at the time, but of course it wasn't all that. It wasn't all that technicals. But I was working there pretty much the majority of the summer,
I see.
and then like I said, with at Rankin those job fairs, you would meet a bunch of recruiters. So that like helped a lot because I met so many recruiters who to this day still keep in touch with me. And I met a young lady at that job fair. I didn't hear from her for like the whole summer, and then like August came, and I remember my first daughter was about to be born, and I was like so eager to like find a job. I moved back in with my dad and stuff, and I was like really like, man, I got to get a job so I can like get back on my own. And she ended up calling me like, "Hey, Build-A-Bear's hiring," and I'm like, "Build-A-Bear," and I'm like, "I don't want to build bears," and she's like, "No, it's corporate," and I'm like, "Oh, okay," and then I ended up landing an interview
I don't
and
want to
ended up
build
getting the job.
that.
Yeah,
Man, I mean, it's a national company. That's awesome. I drive on 64 and I see the headquarters right there on 64 every day.
yeah. We just moved down there a few years ago.
You can't go anywhere without seeing your shops or the location. So that's
They've been as since because me growing up, I don't remember Build-A-Bear really being like a really heavy presence like in St. Louis, but like they've really been trying to spread their brand like all around like
yeah,
these past few years for sure.
yeah, that's cool. So are you? I guess you're working from home, or are you in the office, or you got the blurred background? So
Yeah, so I'm at home right now. I tend to stay home when I have late nights. But for the most part, we have like a flex type of schedule. Like at Build-A-Bear, since the pandemic, everything has pretty much changed. Like you can work from home. If you choose to work from home 24/7, like so be it. However, I worked it out to where I would want to go in like 2 days at least out of the week just to kind of, get out of the house and be able to kind of like in person, like interact with people like in person as opposed to being on camera and stuff like that. That helps out a lot, especially like when you're starting a new role, stuff like that, or when you're working on like a really tough project that has like a really a close deadline. So
you
tomorrow I'll be in the office.
you mentioned before we hit record that you were up late, kind of working on a project for work, doing like a deployment kind of thing.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
you
so
mentioned the late nights. I just wanted to throw that out there that you were out late, essentially at work.
oh yeah. So be a little bit more specific. I wasn't partying.
Yeah.
I try not to do too much during the week because, like I said, I'm not an hourly worker, so my day can go from 6 in the morning to 5 p.m., 6 in the morning to 11 p.m. It just varies on what's going on. We're in the fourth quarter now, and we're coming to a time period called code freeze where we can't really implement anything new to any of our production environments. So everybody's like, trying to fast track and get stuff out before code freeze.
Man, you are still so young. How young are you now? I mean, I gotta ask, like, because in your
I'm
my
on
mind,
26.
you're 26.
Yeah.
And you got all this responsibility, all this, yeah. That's congratulations, man. That's so cool. So what is the standard work day like for you? I mean, give me like your normal working hours, and you're working from home, and how much code are you writing, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I try to start my day off at about like 9 a.m. and then at around 10 a.m. we have like a daily stand up where we all meet as a team and just kind of talk about what we worked on the day before and what we're working on like during that day. Um, I haven't necessarily written anything like myself. I've pretty much just been kind of like building off what's already been written and just kind of like updating stuff that's already been out there. However, after Code Free, so at the beginning of the year, and I know I'm gonna go back to like how a typical day goes, but at the beginning of next year, I'll be pretty much working on a bunch of intake forms for our company. I don't know necessarily like what information they're wanting to like wanting these forms to take, but I'm gonna be working on a bunch of like intake forms and like data retrieval type forms at the beginning of the year. So that'll be kind of like my first, I guess, only written by Juan, first written by Juan type of project that I'll be having. I just, like I said, it's so late in the year. It's not a bunch of stuff that we can really create or like develop like from scratch or like from
Well,
ground
I
zero.
think you're answering an important question, which is like how much of it are you building from scratch, and how much of it are you customizing something that's already built?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, and I don't know that there's one size fits all. Some jobs you might be writing a lot from scratch, especially if you're working for like a smaller company, maybe.
I was about to say.
But if you're working for a larger company, probably it might change, might be different. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. To your point, yeah, Builderbear's been around for 20 plus years. A lot of the stuff. So we're like in that period to where we're trying to bring in some new technology and get rid of some old technology. So there is room to create, some brand new stuff.
Yeah.
However, like I said, that's just time. That'll come as time goes, as time comes and goes. But yeah, like I said, a typical day, we have that daily stand up. I have like tasks that are assigned to me. We use this platform called Jira
Mm-hmm.
to assign tasks to each other. And so just depending on what tasks I have out there, however many tasks I have out there, and the deadlines that they have to meet would depend on like how much time I spend on each task. So
So on a
and
given
then like
day, depending on the task, you might complete a task or two, or half of a task, or 10 tasks. Just
exactly.
depends.
Yep. I try to get done at about 6, so that I can have, a life outside of work. But like I said, that's not always promised. You might be on a little bit later. Just, it just all depends.
Yep. Yep. Um, I remember a story based on one of your hobbies. Can you mind if I tell this story? You didn't. What was one of your? You used to be. You used to make music, yeah.
Yeah, I used to make beats and
Do
stuff
you
like
still?
that.
Do you still?
Uh, Not as much as I did, but as not nearly as much as I did when I was at Ranken, for sure. But yeah, I still every now and then, every now and then.
Um, I was just curious. Yeah. That was your passion when you were younger,
Yeah, for sure.
and now it's like a side thing.
It's like flip flop.
Yeah. Yeah. This was. I don't know. If you remember the conversation or not, but I had this conversation with many a student, and a lot of times it's like, hey, take your passion, and your passion happened to be making beats, right? And I say, give me a fraction of that passion, right, for your schoolwork, for your development
Yeah,
work. Give me a tenth of it, give me a fifth of it. If you can allocate that time and that amount of dedication to your professional career, that would help, right? Do you remember that conversation? I just
Oh
or
yeah, for sure. I definitely do because I remember what kind of like came about that conversation. Because I remember I was struggling at one point, and that was kind of what I want to. I believe that's what made that conversation come about. And then I remember we were working on something. I don't remember if it was like a midterm project. It was something, or it could have been something smaller. And I remember like just none of my code was compiling right, and just nothing was like working like I wanted it to. And I remember like one day I was working on something and it like worked, and I was like, wow, this can really work. This can really work out. Like this. this can really be something for me. That was pretty encouraging to me.
Yeah, I saw it as a moment of like growth when I feel like, you kind of changed your effort, into your schooling a little bit,
Yeah,
and then that kind of helped you launch this career.
yeah, for sure. No, I definitely remember. I remember a lot of stuff. It could be, you might think it might be insignificant, but
Yeah,
a lot of stuff still sticks with me.
yeah. I was always curious too if you were still, doing that on the side, if you still do that as a hobby.
Yeah.
You should
Like I
definitely,
said,
you should definitely send me a little bit of your music, and I'll put it on like the intro to this video or something.
no, yeah, I guess I'll send something, and then
Yeah, we could
see
throw it on there.
what's appropriate for it.
That'll be fun. So what advice? The reason I bring that story up is because that's a standard piece of advice that I give nowadays, right? It's like, hey, we all have your passions, right? And school is just something that most students are just trying to get through. I mean, frankly, most students are giving us, the teachers, minimal effort to like get the grades that they want to get. Like if they just, they're not going to do much above, right? So a very common piece of advice that I give is what I just said is like, hey, give me a piece of your passion and reallocate that passion into this industry, and that will help you, tenfold, right? So that's my advice, But the question that I have for you is, what advice would you give to your younger self? What advice would you give to your younger self to do better than you did the first time through?
So there's two things. So the first thing, the more or less complex thing is, everybody is kind of running a different race. In the past, I would always compare myself and compare like where I am to somebody else, and as time has gone on, I had to realize, this is I'm not necessarily competing against this person. I'm more so competing against myself. And I'm not to say, you still have to, strive to be better than some people to get certain jobs that you might want. So of course, don't take that out of the equation. But at the same time, you'll beat yourself up way too much if you're comparing yourself to other people's paths, and you're trying to think you're supposed to go down a similar path that somebody else did in their career. So that's the first thing
I
I
like
want
that
to say.
everyone's running different races.
Yeah, for sure.
That's really good.
And then the second thing is, Kobe Bryant was like, he's like my favorite basketball player of all time for sure. And he's always been like the type of person to like not have a plan B. He's always like putting he's all into like that plan A, which is nothing wrong with that at all. However, in certain situations, because we're not playing basketball, we can't necessarily train our bodies and keep shooting like jump shots over and over again. I would never like put all of my ducks or all of my eggs in one basket. Like you always want to have something like to fall back on. So for example, I was still like, oh, I'm gonna make beats, and sometimes like stuff like that just might not work out. And you always want to be able to be at least as good, if not as good, somewhat good at something else, to where if something doesn't work out, you definitely have something else to fall back on, because life is a crazy thing. Is a lot of crazy stuff happens in life, and a lot of stuff isn't promised for everybody. So you always want to have plan A, and I'll say plan A B or something like that. Plan
part
1A
two.
and plan 1, yeah, something like that.
Yeah. I grew up with being a Michael Jordan fan, just watching him, right? And even though I was a Michael Jordan fan, my Instagram feed is full of Kobe motivational shorts.
Yeah.
He's pretty good. He's pretty motivational.
No, he was.
He's really
Yeah.
good, right? The
It's
first
just
guy,
funny
the first
because-
guy on the courts, was, oh, I'm gonna wake up early and beat Kobe to the court. You're never gonna beat Kobe to the court. He's always up before you and already worked out before you're even awake, kind of thing. Yeah, he's good.
It's funny because everybody's like just now realizing he's like that for some reason, and he's like always been like that. He's always showed that.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that 5 years ago about him, unfortunately. Did you have any? Well, your first job at Build-A-Bear wasn't a developer job, so I guess you didn't have any developer technical questions on the interview, I'm assuming.
So not necessarily. They were all like basic IT type of questions,
Okay.
to be honest.
You did get asked some IT questions though.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Well, the other roles I grew into, they became more like the second role, like my administrative role, the role I was in previously. I wasn't necessarily a developer, but I was doing a bunch of like database administrative type of work. So there was like a bunch of SQL related questions that I got asked in that interview. And then this go around, there was some developer type of questions, but I'm gonna be honest, when you interview, because this isn't the only like developer position I've ever interviewed for. One thing that I've noticed in developer positions, you get asked like a lot of like I want to say like almost like psychological type of questions,
They
like
want to see how you
or
think.
philosophical. Like people really want to know how you think as
Yeah.
opposed to like how you code. They want to really understand your mind a little bit before they bring you to a company.
Yeah. No, I hear that a lot and I read that a lot about developers that have been out there for a long time. Being a successful developer, knowing how to code and writing good code, might be 20% of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Of
Like
being what a real good developer is, there's a lot of other skills just besides writing the algorithms, writing the semicolons, writing the methods, calling the methods. There's a lot more teamwork and, you know, so yeah, there's more to it. So,
yeah.
um,
A
very
lot,
cool.
they a lot of people who are hiring for developer positions, they're not necessarily looking for somebody who they can just boss around or tell what to do. They're looking for somebody who can actually be, okay, so what do you think? Or like how do you feel? Like what do you think might benefit us in the long run or something like that? They're looking for somebody who has a voice, who's actually going to be talking as opposed to just sitting around listening.
Yeah, cool. So you're young. You're 27. You said 26.
6.
You think you'll be doing this in 30 years, or you think you'll hang up the developer hat and move on into something else at some point in the distant future?
30 years, I'll be what, 56.
Yeah.
I'm hoping I'll be retired by then, honestly.
Okay, cool. Good
Hopefully
answer.
I'll
Me
be
too.
retired with a pretty comfy pension or a lot of money in my 401k.
Yeah.
I mean, but who knows? Like, I mean, if I'm like if I'm at that if I'm doing something really fun, if I don't know if I'm like Google or something or whatever really big tech company is out at the time and they got me comfortable. I might stick around for the long haul, but I always said, by the time I'm 60, I want to be kicking my feet up at least.
Me too. Has AI influenced your job at all?
So I haven't really gotten much into the AI thing because it's like really it's like a head scratcher to me at the moment.
Yeah.
But we have like a consultant team who we work with called PLM. They kind of help us with like our product life management. So like all of our product SKUs and stuff like that. Um, and they've been trying to get us to implement like some AI and creating like some of like our products and stuff like that. We haven't gotten a whole bunch of information on that as of yet, but that's going to be coming our way next year, allegedly. So
Okay.
more information on that to come, I'm sure. More research and learning on that end for sure.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that's going to be a really big thing in the next 5 to 10 years. It'll probably be a really big part of a lot of companies.
Yeah. So I assumed as much, but I haven't asked that you're still living in the St. Louis area.
Yep, I still live. I've been actually living in the house that I'm in now since like a year after I graduated from Ranken. I've been here for a while. I'm actually looking for a new house. I'm
Okay.
actually thinking about coming down to the city
Okay. Well,
because it's a little closer to Build-A-Bear too. So
yeah. Well, just want to kind of wrap up and say, thanks for your time. Congratulations, man, again on your success.
yeah,
Super
for
happy
sure.
for
Thank
you.
you.
Super happy for you, and thanks for taking the time for my students. Um, I've been doing these interviews, and they've been asking less and less questions. Like on the first one, I get like 10 questions, but nowadays I'm like, hey, any questions? And they're like, eh. So let me open
Yeah.
it up. Any questions? Hey, good. We got one. Do you use ChatGPT to help you with your code?
No, I don't use that. Is that? I think I heard of that. Isn't that like some sort of thing that like reads your code for you or something like that? Or
Yeah, it's a tool that once you know your foundations, once you know your fundamentals, right, it can help you be a lot more efficient. Is how I view it, right? So it could take your
gotcha.
standard developer and increase their output quite a bit. So yeah, I'd recommend checking it out, especially as someone who knows his foundations and knows his fundamentals. It might speed up some of your development time.
Yeah, I definitely heard of it. There's some guys that I work with who I'm not sure if they use it, but we were like talking about it in conversation, but
Yeah.
they didn't necessarily give a bunch of detail on
Yeah,
it.
it's built on top of ChatGPT was built on top of uh, GitHub Copilot. GitHub Copilot took the public repos that are out there on the internet and all of them, right, as their seed data. And if like you ask this thing a question, it can like literally look at all the repos that are out there and like write code for you or help you write code really efficiently. So it's I use it literally. I was using it 20 minutes ago, and it like
Gotcha.
you write a function header, and it's like, oh, let me fill in the function for you. It's incredible. Yeah.
Oh,
Here's another question.
What led you to decide to just stick with Build-A-Bear, or was it one of those that you were the first people to respond back?
You've stuck with Build-A-Bear now for your whole career thus far. Why have you stuck with Build-A-Bear?
so originally it was to get to this point. So I'm like, I've been here. At the time, I was there for like 3 years. I'm like, I still want to like, cause Build-A-Bear being here, they kind of give you time to like learn and grow. And I never worked for another company outside of them, professionally. So I was kind of scared at first to like up and leave them because trust me, I've definitely thought about leaving here and there. But like I said, I just was like, they'll give me time to grow. They'll give me time to kind of learn and trying to move up the chain. So I wanted to stay from that aspect. However, when the pandemic hit, it was just a lot of uncertainty. I was just was just like if I up and leave now, I've been with this company for a while. I'm not gonna say I'm grandfathered in, but they're I don't want to use the word comfortable because I definitely that's a very dangerous word to use. But it's just they take care of me in a sense, I guess. Like
Yeah, there's
not like
security,
outside
right?
of yeah security for sure. It's like
Yeah, security,
from
job security. I mean, there's something to be said about working risky in the tech industry. Tech industry is risky, right? It goes through booms and busts. And when you've got a secure job, that's worth a lot. I've known certainly stories that people go out and they work these risky jobs and they might earn 150, 200K in the St. Louis area, but man, the second the sideway goes a little sideways, the economy goes a little sideways. It's
they're
risky out
gone
there.
for sure.
So
And they've been there for me like with personal stuff that I deal with, like family stuff, and so I really like when you get a job, you really got to take a look at the culture
yeah,
as well as your pay. All that's important, but like the culture is very important at a job. Very important.
100% agree. Another question. Yep.
How much, I guess, outside of school and outside of work did you have to keep studying in order to keep maintaining yourself in this year?
As a student or as an employee?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So as a student and as an employee, how much extra do you put in outside your standard workload day?
So I assume like how much time do I spend on like development, like
Side
outside of work?
projects or just like learning, reading?
So I have definitely been doing like a bunch of reading. So if I have like some downtime, like if I have a really loose day to where it's not too crazy, not a lot of crazy stuff going on, I might look at some forums or look at just kind of read up on some stuff and so on and so forth. I still use like Udemy and stuff like that, and I'll look at like some of the courses on there, just trying to brush up on some of my skills, try to see like what's new out there as well. I try my best to stay up to date as well. Like the best thing you want to do is stay up to date with the technology that's being used or like whatever is the standard nowadays. But like I said, I mean, you definitely want to give your mind a break. You want to give your head a break as well. Like if you have like a rough day or a really strenuous day, you don't want to like cram all this stuff in your head. You want to rest your mind a little bit too. So my supervisor, he's stressed that as well. Like he's a workaholic like that, man. Like since I've been a Build-A-Bear, he's like the only supervisor I know who like really like works as hard as he does. Like everybody else is kind of like just telling everybody what to do, not trying to downplay them at all. I've had some really good supervisors, but him, he's like almost like he's like a coworker as opposed to a supervisor. So, and he even says it like, yeah, you got to give your head a rest. You know, you got to rest a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good question. Good answer. Anything else?
We have a question over here, Mr. Gumminstead.
Yeah, go for it.
We might have missed it in the beginning, but what is your title at Build-A-Bear?
So I'm just a developer. Nothing like super duper flashy, but yeah, that's just one word, developer. At Build-A-Bear, we use like bear-isms. So you might hear somebody say a develop bear, but you know, I prefer a developer. A little bit more professional.
We have one more question. What was it, Nate?
Often needs to use the hybrid schedule. Yeah, like in a lot of work part.
Do you use a hybrid schedule a lot with your work, or you mostly just work from home?
I use a hybrid schedule. I try my best to use it often. However, like weeks when I have like my kids, I tend to stay home because it's just like a bunch of driving, and I don't really like driving a lot. Like my kids, they go to school by my house, and then the office is all the way deep downtown. So, but for the most part, I try to go into the office at least 2 days out of the week.
What high school did you go to?
I went to McClure North.
McClure North.
It's in North County.
Okay.
You mentioned doing a daily stand-up at work. So I take it you're doing agile development in that case?
Yep.
And if so, what is your development cycle? How many weeks normally?
So I guess you're asking like how many weeks do I work on a project or how many weeks I
Yeah, before you have like a backlog meeting and stuff like that, and when you say your code freeze and that, I'm guessing that's right before you turn in all your software.
So this code freeze, this actually happens just around the holiday season. It's mainly just because we're retail and this is like the busiest season of the year. So we usually go into a code freeze in the middle of November, from the middle of November all the way through like the middle of January, right before like Valentine's Day. So it's not something that we do like throughout the year. And as far as like our like handling like our backlog, we have like sprints. Our sprints can go anywhere from like 1 week to 2 weeks, just depending on like the amount of work that we have during that time period, and the realistic time that it might take to get done with all of that stuff.
Thank you.
If that answers your question.
Yep.
All right, Juan. Well, hey, man, I took enough of your time. I really appreciate it. I thought you answered all the questions. You know, it was a great interview, so thanks for giving me the opportunity, man. Good seeing you.
Yeah, for sure. I think this one went way better than the last one.
I thought the last one was all good, but yeah, appreciate it. Have a good one, man. We'll stay in touch.
Sure thing.
All right,
See you
congrats.
guys.
Later. Bye.